This isn't your grandpa's tablet. It's your grandpa's tablet. It's exactly what it is. You know, it's a common misconception that I hear among people that Apple invented the tablet computer. But the reality is there was a lot of different tablets in the late 1980s, and all throughout the 90s there was tablet-like devices. Now you have early tablets like the Samsung Pen Master, which used a modified version of Windows 3.1 and had Pen Touch enabled. And then you have devices like the Apple Newton and Message Pad, which are probably the ancient ancestors to what we consider the iPad today. Now, all of these early tablets, whether they were Windows or Apple devices, whatever, they all had flaws that prevented them from becoming huge successes. They were expensive, they were clunky to use, and they weren't fully developed into what we know a tablet to be today. However, if you know my little YouTube channel here though, you know I'm not afraid of a little bit of clunk, and you know, Piranha Bytes games are my favorite games, so you can say I'm sort of an aficionado of clunk. So let's take a look at this Fujitsu Stylistic LT, a Pentium 1 tablet running Windows 98 that aimed to be your desktop replacement in 1999. As far as I can tell, this tablet was released in 1999, but finding any concrete details on it is sort of difficult in 2024. The price, for instance, can't really be found anywhere, and from what I gather, it was probably a special order item or a business machine for specialized use. My suspicions of this are made clear by the fact that finding one of these on eBay these days is almost impossible. Digging through the archives of the old Fujitsu website also reveals that it was discontinued sometime in the year 2000, only a year after its initial release. So using my internet archaeology skills, I can only assume that they didn't sell a ton of these. However, if the price of its successor, the LT C500, is anything to go by, it probably started at around $2,000, depending on your options. And as the side of the box for my unit reveals, there were indeed a few different options, it appears. Mine comes with a V90 modem and a transflective LCD, but there were also models with an Ethernet option or an active TFT display. And while we're talking about the LCD display, it's looking pretty dim these days. Not unlike most of my mobile displays from this time period, unfortunately, but it has made filming it rather difficult. The display is rather large, being 8.4 inches, and with it being a tablet, of course, it has a touchscreen. Being the old school style resistive touch, you definitely want to use a stylus, and this screen seems to require quite a bit of downward force to make it work. The included stylus also has a spring-loaded tip for her pleasure, likely to try and make it more tactile for dragging around. Overall, it works pretty well for writing and drawing, but the amount of force required to make it work kind of feels wrong, like I'm gonna break it or something, but you know, I think that's just the way it's designed. Those few quirks aside, I will say there's something neat about controlling Windows 98 with a touchscreen. More than just for clicking and drawing though, the stylus is also your keyboard. Sorta. So you will notice that there are no physical keys on the device, aside from a numpad and some function buttons on the right side of the unit. There are a few solutions for input, like the on-screen keyboard application, which you can use to henpeck text with a stylus, but the more interesting way would be to use the handwriting recognition. Through the included software, you can tap the pen icon on your taskbar and write characters anywhere on the screen to key in text where the caret cursor is located. It definitely works, but it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of accuracy. It might just be that I suck at writing, but it never seems to quite work right with capitalization and whatnot. Still, the best part about this feature is probably pretending you're John Madden while making circles and arrows all over the screen. It's kind of fun. I would say that is enough about the tablet-y parts. What is this thing packing in terms of hardware? Well, we have a fairly competent I/O with headphone and mic jacks, a built-in mono speaker, a modem jack, 2 card bus Type 3 compatible slots, and of course a USB 1.0 port. On the back of the tablet, you have a hot swap 2600 milliamp hour battery, and insanely enough, this one still holds a charge. It only works for about 45 minutes or so, but hey, this thing's pushing 25 years old now. I think that's pretty good. Removing a few screws from the back of the unit will reveal the motherboard, and it's abundantly clear that there are not very many user serviceable parts for upgrades. The 4GB hard drive is replaceable by removing some fragile looking cables and screws, but other than that, everything is built into the main board. Even the 64 megabytes of included SD RAM is soldered onto the board, almost like it's a bad omen of what all modern mobile devices will be in the future. Spooky. Running the show, we have a Pentium 1 MMX 233 MHz CPU, a Neomagic 128XD graphics processor, and for sound, we have an ESS Audio Drive 1879. By 1999 standards, these specs may seem underwhelming, but for DOS games and mid-90s Windows gaming, this is kind of a sweet spot. You have a Pentium fast enough for most games of this period, and a sound chip with pretty decent Sound Blaster Pro compatibility. Or so it seems. Actually playing games is rather cumbersome due to the fact that you have no keyboard. Even if you can use the stylus for the game as the mouse, good luck hitting that Y key to exit the game. But there is a solution. May I introduce the Fujitsu Mini Dock, which will turn your humble stylistic tablet into a humble stylistic desktop thing. This dock was an optional accessory that will give you 2 PS2 ports for mouse and keyboard, parallel, RS-232, a floppy drive port which uses a weird connector I don't know the name of, and of course VGA output for an external monitor. When connected to the external monitor, you can also use the tablet display at the same time. It would have been hecka cool if you could have made it work in extended mode, but unfortunately you can just duplicate it. Interestingly, you can still use the touchscreen on the tablet as the mouse while connected to an external monitor, so I guess you could use it as a drawing tablet of sorts, but I don't know how useful that truly is. Overall though, this is kind of a sick setup for 1999, I'm not gonna lie, and the portability and compactness kind of makes it appealing now. I mean, I did buy this in 2008, so I guess it was always appealing to me, but what do you say? Let's play some classic Windows and DOS games on this 25-year-old beast. Alright guys, so here's the setup with the dock and the tablet, and I just thought it'd be fun to play some games and just kind of show the capabilities of what this thing is capable of. Let's start with some DOS games first. Let's try something simple like JazzJackrabbit. So yeah, we have JazzJackrabbit, and as you can hear, sounds pretty good. Well, the best you can hear through my little lav mic here. I don't have it hooked up to all recording, but yeah, the ES chip does pretty well in here. So as you can see, plays pretty well. As you would expect, I mean, it's a Pentium processor, 266 megahertz. Honestly, pretty fast. For DOS games, most DOS games. Yeah, and when it's docked like this, it's just like playing it on a desktop, honestly. Playing it on the actual tablet is pretty terrible because of the screen and everything, but you know, playing it on here is really no different than my other machines of this class. Obviously around 1999 you had you had stuff like the Pentium 3 that were out, so this was probably kind of slow when they released this machine, but you know, it's still mobile and you can practically put it in your pocket, so pretty cool. So let's try something different. Let's try something maybe a little bit more demanding. We have Descent 2, and I'll have to put a disc in for that. If anyone's curious, this is actually just like a USB Blu-ray drive just hooked to this Windows 98 computer. It works great though, honestly. No problems whatsoever. Yeah, here we have some Descent, and like as before, sounds pretty good because you got that chip in there. Let's see how it plays. We're playing it at the highest settings with, what's the resolution we're playing at? Yeah, 640 by 480. Pretty bad at Descent too. And I don't know if, this keyboard's really bad too. I got this keyboard for this thing. It came with it actually. I don't know if it's the official keyboard for it, but it's absolutely terrible. Super smushy, super cramped layout, but that's what we're playing with. But as you can see here, this is beyond playable. This is pretty much how I remember playing this game since like forever, at least on these kind of systems. What's the shoot button? Shoot. There's no space between the control and alt buttons on this keyboard, so they're just all kind of smushed together, and it's like really hard to figure out what's what. But yeah, this is indeed Descent 2. Playing pretty good. I don't really know. I mean, I don't know what the frame rate is, but it's not really dropping frames much. Just playing like it would on any other computer. Might run a little smoother on the lower resolution, but yeah, if I was playing it, I'd probably play it on this because it looks good and plays good. Oh. Okay, this is pathetic Descent playing. But yeah, let's try some Windows games and see how it does with that. So we're gonna try some Age of Empires Gold Edition. So we're loaded into Age of Empires, and yeah, it's Age of Empires. And I believe I have it running at the very fast setting. And it's killing it, man. It's looking good. Let's get some dudes with clubs in here. We'll send like a club squad, see if we can go kill the other people. Yeah, Tool Age. Let's be a tool. Where did the Bastilla come from? What? Anyway, I'm probably gonna lose, but as you can see, runs Age of Empires swimmingly. So let's show something that it's not quite good at. Pretty much anything that is 3D does not run super awesome on this. And I think part of it is because this graphics in this machine is weak. Doesn't support OpenGL or anything like that. If you load up anything that is OpenGL or any kind of hardware acceleration, it doesn't do so hot, it just crashes. But even something like this, which I think this game uses software. I don't know. Some earlier 3D stuff probably works, but anything like this doesn't work super great, as we'll find out. All right, so I got Motocross Madness 2 loaded up here. And as you will see, it doesn't load particularly well. I think it's probably because of the graphics card in here. We have the graphics turned on pretty low. It doesn't actually work on 320 by 200. I was gonna put it down to that, but if I go any lower to that, it just crashes. So let's just do 640 by 400 and see how it goes. Everything on low, crappiest it'll go. And yeah, I'll show you how it goes here. Not well. Yeah, I was getting about 11 frames per second before. So here we have it. Motocross Madness 2 running at, I would say an unplayable frame rate. But I mean, hey, at least it runs it. A lot of games I tried on this, it didn't even run, like Microsoft Flight Simulator. Actually ran too, but everything was like bright red. And then I think I tried a few other games, like maybe it was a Quake game, I don't remember. But I had some OpenGL issues and nothing would run with that either. But yeah, 3D games don't run so well, probably because of that Neo Magic thing being not the greatest graphics. But honestly, for what this machine is, just a tablet, a weird little tablet that basically is a Pentium 1 computer desktop just built into a tablet format. I think it's pretty neat. Maybe not something that you'd want to seek out, especially if you wanted to find all the accessories and everything to get it to work. It probably is just worth it to get a desktop instead. It does have some weaknesses though that I didn't really touch on before. It's kind of difficult to reinstall Windows 98 on it. It's not impossible, I don't think, but it's definitely kind of difficult because you can only boot off of the hard drive in here and the floppy drive, which the floppy drive has to be run through the dock in order for you to even use it. So you would have to plug it into the dock and then boot it off of the floppy and then try and figure out some way to get a CD-ROM to work or copy the files over first, and then it would just kind of be a big mess. But it's still pretty cool, and I'm hoping to install like a flash card or something in at some point, CF card, and reinstall Windows. But you know, for now, it works pretty good. This still has the original Windows installation from when I first got it, and it somehow hasn't broken yet. But it certainly is a cool little tablet if you see one for cheap, and yeah, you can play DOS games and early Windows games on it. So that concludes our look at the Fujitsu Stylistic LT. Quite the interesting device, and a good example of how quickly technology progressed after the late 90s. For me, it's pretty crazy that less than a decade after devices like this, we had smartphones and touch interfaces that were far easier to use. Heck, even improvements to LCD tech from the late 90s to mid-2000s is staggering. That, however, is probably a tale for another time. Hey stranger, if you got to this ending portion, I assume that you thought my video was not boring. There is more here for you to watch if you're interested, and subscribing is a thing you can do as well, completely free of course. I'd also like to thank all of our YouTube members and Patreons, past and present. I appreciate the support you guys give me. But anyway, I'll see you guys next time.